I have up on the screen where we're going to go next by creating our levels. We're looking at an elevation view of the building. We're looking at the building front on from the south. And I'll show you how to get to that view in a moment. You'll notice how we have level 1, which is the level that we were working on to create the flat grid, the horizontal grid. We're also going to build a second floor, and it'll be called the mezzanine level. And then we're going to have some other elements labeled like the top of steel. That's going to help us place the structural systems, the top of the glazing, which is our window systems on the 2 levels, and then top of the parapet, which is the very top of the building. And these terms are explained in the lecture that goes along with this module. So let me go ahead and close this off. And we're back to our drawing. And now we want to get to that south elevation. So it is under the project browser. You'll notice elevations, and I'm going to select south. And if I double click on that, it's going to open the south elevation. I'm going to use the center scroll button or wheel and zoom in and change level 2 now to mezzanine. So I'm just going to click on that top box. It'll go and click it again. It'll go into an editing mode and then type in mezzanine. And then click off of that, and you'll notice it gives us a warning. It's going to rename that view. So you'll notice now that the floor plan has a level 1, a mezzanine level, and then a site level also. And these ceiling plans are opened, and I would encourage you to close those off. They can be a little confusing right now. You can actually think you're on a floor plan when in fact you're on a ceiling plan. So I'm just going to hit the little divot in front of that and close that down. So we renamed our mezzanine. Now we want to change its level. So I'm going to click on the bottom box again and click it again and then type in 15 feet because that's the height that we want it to be. And now we're going to create some new fresh levels. So back at this view, I'm going to go to the architecture tab again and grab our levels and out our grid. And I'm going to start drawing a line just below these. And I'm going to come over here and line up with the edge of this one and drag it over here. And I'm just going to hold up short because these are going to actually end up being very close to each other. And I'll zoom in here. And now this says level 2, but what we want this to be is top of glazing. Top of glazing. And then I'm going to go L1 to indicate L1. And then I'll just click off of that. It's going to make that new view and label it up here. And I'm going to click on the bottom box then. And I'm going to change that dimension to 13 feet. And we'll zoom back out. We still got the level line selected, so I'm going to go up and construct another one. And I'm going to make this just like the top of glazing. And you'll notice that it automatically incremented it to L2 and created a new view. I'm going to go and click on the Modify button now and grab the 31 and change that to be 28 feet. And now we need a top of steel. So I'm going to come back here again, get the whole thing in the view, grab my level tool, and my top of steel is just above that slightly. Once again, I'm using that line, that hinting line, and I'll pull this over until it lines up with that one. Then I'll zoom in here, hit modify, so I can click on the top of glazing. And we don't want it to be top of glazing, we want it to be top of steel. And we need one more level for this project. So I'm going to go back to architecture, grab a level tool, once again line up on this edge, and then come over here, line up with that, and then once again go to grab the modify button, click our top of glazing, and I'll call that top of parapet. And we want that top of parapet to be 35 feet. Okay, so now we have a couple of issues. You'll notice these vertical grid lines, the grid lines that we drew in plan, are no longer coming up through all of the levels. And I want to show you how that kind of reads in the 3D view. So let's create a 3D view. I'm going to go up to the view palette, I'm going to click on the little doghouse, double click on it, and you'll notice now we can see the 3D of our grid laying that we constructed with the bays in it, and then all of our different levels. Now, if I go back to that south elevation, you'll notice that, well, actually, let me describe this in another way. Let's say we'll go to top of glazing L2. I'm going to double click on top of glazing L2, and you'll notice we don't see our grid. But we do see our grid at level 1. The reason we don't see the grid up at level 2 is because we have not extended these lines all the way up. So I'm going to grab one of these, and you'll notice it highlights with the little dot on it, and it indicates that it's connected to all of those. I'm going to grab in the center of it and drag it up. And I'm going to go back to the top of glazing, and now you'll notice how those lines are showing all the way up to the top of our building. Now we have the same problem on the east elevation. So if I go, or the west, that transverse look at it, a reminder to save the project. So actually let's do that right now. So I'm going to click Save the Project, save it to where I'm working, and I'm calling this M1. And in this case, I'm just doing an intermediate one. This could be your full project. This is just to save it as levels. So you'll notice now that these lines no longer are not extending up through all of the levels. So once again, I'll select one of these, grab into that little circle and pull it up. And now if we go to the top of glazing again, both of our grid lines are showing. Now I want to do a little bit of cleaning up before we finish this off. So I'm going to go back to the south elevation, and we have these lines that are hanging way off to the edge. I want to pull these in nice and tight. And we can try to do the same thing here and see how. So these two will come in very nicely. And then if I grab on these, they all align, and we can pull these in pretty good too. All right, so, and now if I do ZE, zoom extent, it'll take us out to everything that's drawn on the screen, or everything that's drawn in the field, and bring it up tight in the screen to fill the screen. So now we've completed the levels, and we'll be ready to move on to the next component.